Good evening. We're in the second half of chapter 16. In this chapter, the Rebbe brings a new type of Beinoni personality. A Beinoni who is not passionate in his davening. It is because his nature is a more laid-back nature, and we'll discuss more about where this comes from. But in the earlier chapters of Tanya, he spoke about the Beinoni as someone who, at least when he davens, is very passionate about his davenings, has feelings in his davening. And over here, we're speaking about a Beinoni who doesn't have feelings, but nevertheless, he's motivated intellectually to do what's right. So now let us fully analyze this. Generally, the way Hashem made human nature, a complete and perfect action starts with the brain, with his mind. It makes sense, it's right, it is thought through, so his mind is in it. Hashem also gave us feelings, emotions, and after processing it in his brain, he now has feelings towards it. And when his brains are working together with these feelings, he's emotionally there, he's totally there, and this moves him to do the action. That is considered a perfect action. And it's in everything in life. One of the problems in today's society, one of the problems is people are supposedly multitasking, and their head's in one place, their hands are in another place, and they're doing several things at once. But one could question, where are they there totally? I'm sure a spouse, when they're talking to spouses, when they're talking to each other, and they sense that their partner is elsewhere in mind, even though they're physically there, or their mind may be there, but their heart is not in it, there's a problem. Because really, to be somewhere totally, you should have your mind there. It should make sense. Not be doubtful about this act that you're about to do. Not have any doubts in the mind. And to have a full heart in what you're doing. And then the result will be a perfect result. A perfect man doing a perfect action. Mind, emotion, and action. Then you work on the action, that it should be done to the fullest measure possible. It should be done professionally if it's something that needs professional work. And it should be done completely if it's something that has a process that needs to be completed. So therefore, his body is there to make sure it happens, and his feelings are there, and his mind is there. And this is also by a mitzvah. Mitzvahs are actions that Hashem wants us to do. And since this is an action that is for Hashem, it should be a perfect action, as perfect as we possibly can. So it should be thought through in the mind to make sense that this is a mitzvah, this is the right thing to do, and this is how to do it. And then the person should meditate and be inspired and do it with feelings. And then he should study the halacha exactly how to do this action. Then it's a perfect mitzvah. And the Beinoni, at least in action, he tries to do everything the right way. And therefore the Beinoni in his thoughts is doing it the right, and his feelings is doing it, and his actions are always doing it the right way. That's what he is. The only thing is, he still has a struggle within himself. He still has the Yetzer Hara. But that part of him that is connected with his action, His mind and his feelings should be all there. But this Beinoni that we're talking about apparently is a bit imperfect. And this could be in general life experiences. It could be a person who doesn't get emotionally on fire as easily as others. But in his mind, he understands this is the right thing to do. In the Maimer of the fifth Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, it's in Kuntras Avoida, when he speaks about the Beinoni of chapter 16, he says that even though he is not emotionally involved in doing the mitzvah, but he is motivated. There's motivation here. And he has what he calls Heskim Belibai. And the translation that I would say closest to this would be resolve. He is resolved and committed to do it. And he's motivated to do it. But there's a difference between motivation and an emotion. A person can be motivated to do something and eager to do something, but it doesn't mean that his heart is on fire about it. It's a feeling. Sometimes you have a feeling. Not that you're against it, but your heart is not on fire. It's not that he has doubts in his heart. It's not that he's holding back his feelings. It's possible that he is not by nature someone whose feelings are closer to the surface. And that's what he called in the beginning of the chapter. He is Tavuna that doesn't give birth to feelings. But his Galos Libai, in a revealed way where he can actually sense the pull towards this in his heart. So in a sense it's imperfect because there's missing a step. A perfect action has mind, 1 mind, 2 emotion, and 3 is the action. His total humanity is in it. And this seems to be imperfect because it's in the mind and he's motivated, but he skips emotion and it comes down to action. And the Alter Rebbe says over here that this doesn't make him lesser of a Beinoni because he's missing this emotion dynamic when he does the mitzvah. And that's really his nature, that's the way it is, but he's still considered a complete Beinoni, and it's not considered an imperfect action, even though it's missing that step of what you call emotion. And he's going to bring a Maimer Chazal, a teaching of our sages, where the wording is interesting. And he says, V'zeu ramzu razal, and remez, they alluded to this in their choice of words. When they said, Ba'amram, machshava taiva HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa l'maisa. When they spoke about this type of personality, they said, a good thought Hashem attaches to action. Hashem is attaching the thought to action. What does it mean Hashem is attaching the thought to the action? As if they're not attached, they're detached. And Hashem has to intervene and attach the thought to the action. And he's going to explain that really the emotion should drive the action. Really, he should do the mitzvah with feelings. And the feelings should drive the action. But this person lacks feelings, lacks emotion, So HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfo, therefore Hashem attaches the motivation that's in his mind, that resolve that's motivating him to an action. So therefore, it's completed a complete mitzvah, and it's not considered an imperfect mitzvah. And as he's explained before, that this motivation that he has in the mind really is what you call brainy emotion. In his mind, he understands that he should really be on fire. He's just not the type. Or right now, he's not there. Because it's harder for him to get emotionally involved than others. So where he's now, he's in the level of tfuna, which doesn't give birth to feelings. So therefore Hashem has to attach his good thoughts and attach this to an action that it can be a complete, that's why he's a complete person. His whole humanity is involved. Now the Rebbe, really, the Alter Rebbe here is using Talmudic questioning when the Talmud takes note of the wording of our sages and how the wording is so precise that if they chose their words in that way, it must be teaching us, alluding to something more. So let's start again. Machshava tova HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaref l'maisha. Hashem attaches a good thought to action. And usually, when the Torah, when our sages, when the Chazal want to say that something is considered in the eyes of Hashem to be perfect or good, even though it's not necessarily so perfect, they use a different word. Usually when someone wants to do a mitzvah, but because of extenuating circumstances, he is held back from doing the mitzvah. So this person, the Hashem considers it as if he did the mitzvah. The Torah considered it as if he did it. So, arguably, over here, the wording of our sages of the Gemara should have been that a good thought, Hashem considers it as if the action was there. Because some would read Machshava Tova HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaref l'maisa. Some would read this, and some commentators actually do understand it that way, that there was no action. But if you have a good thought, it's like a good deed. And that's how some read this line in Talmud. I'm sure some translators also translate that way. One could ask, what does it mean? Machshava tova HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaref l'maisa. A good thought, Hashem attaches it to a deed. One could translate it to mean a good thought Hashem attaches to a deed means Hashem considers it as if there was a deed, even though in fact there was not a deed. So here the Alter Rebbe says, if that was the intention of this lesson of our sages, it should have said, Machshava Tova HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ma'ila Alav Ki'ilu Asa. Hashem considers it as if it was done. Now over here, it doesn't say it considers as if it was done. It says he attaches it to an action. And with this, he's going to lead to the thought that the action was here. And it's seemingly an imperfect action because there's no feeling in the action. So therefore Hashem attaches the motivation in the mind, what he called over here, the tfuna, the potential love that he has in his mind, his resolve, that he attaches it to the action. which is a new translation of this line. But I want to go back on this idea. The Alter Rebbe says he should have used the term, if the intention over here was that there was no action, but the good thought is, like they say in English, it's the thought that counts. And therefore, even though one did not do the action, we say, well, I was going to buy you a present, I was going to call you up for your birthday, I was going to woulda, shoulda, coulda, like they say in Brooklyn. So there, the response of a gracious person would say, yes, it's the thought that counts, and I'm sure you thought about me by my birthday, by my anniversary, etc., etc. So if that was the words, it should have said, Maila Lavakasav. Now we do have similar thoughts concerning a person who wants to do an Aveira. He wanted to do a mitzvah. Venenas. And he was forced and held back from doing the mitzvah. So, Maila Lavakasav, here the words is, the Torah, the halacha considers it as if he did the mitzvah. As if he did the mitzvah, because the good thought, the thought that counts, but it's considered as if he did the mitzvah. Thoughts generally don't count. A lot of Jews who they say, I'm a Jew at heart, and we know Hashem gave us Torah mitzvahs, that it's not enough to be a Jew in thought. We have to be a Jew in action. So it's the action that counts. Good thoughts got the world a lot of trouble. People have very good thoughts, but they didn't speak up and they didn't stand up. And the bad guys got away with murder. So it's not enough to have good thoughts. You have to speak up, and you have to stand up and to do what's right. But nevertheless, we do have that if someone wanted to do a mitzvah and he was forcefully held back from doing the mitzvah, then the Torah considers it as if he did that mitzvah. And I remember the Rebbe spoke about his father who was imprisoned. And his father was a Kabbalist. He was a Mekubal of a very powerful scale, from the biggest of the previous generation. And he was arrested, so he couldn't do the mitzvahs. And the Rebbe spoke about, in general, people who they were in jail. So they held back from them tefillin, sukkah, matzah. Sometimes the family could help them and send them a pack of matzahs. But sukkah, forget about it. They wouldn't let you have a sukkah in the jail. So the Rebbe said, to do that mitzvah, if he could jump off a roof, he would jump off the roof to jump down to do a mitzvah. But you can't jump up to the roof, even if you want to. If there's a roof up there and you're down there, you can't jump up to the roof. So Hashem considers it as if you did the mitzvah. In an earlier time under the Tsar, there was a very cruel decree, and it started in the late 1700s, the Cantonists, where the Tsar ordered that Jewish children should forcefully be taken from their homes and drafted into the Tsar's army. And many of them kept their Yiddishkeit throughout that time, even though they were forced to eat the food that the Tsar gave them and to be present in Christian celebrations. But many of them, after serving their time, they had to be there for 25 years, they came back to their Yiddishkeit. In fact, in some cities, there was what was called the Cantonist shul. The shul of the Cantonists. So these were guys who were physically went through what you call hell and back, saw battle, beaten for being Jewish, and they came back to their people very proud and strong Jews, although with very little education. And during the time of the Mittler Rebbe, this is in the early 1800s, the Mittler Rebbe was asked to speak to Cantonists. The Mittler Rebbe had his issues with the Tsarist government, and he had to be in Petersburg. And there were hundreds of Cantonists who then were stationed in Petersburg. And they heard that the Rebbe was there, so they asked that the Rebbe should be able to speak to them. And there is a mimer which was what he recorded what he spoke to the Cantonists. He had made an assembly and they allowed him to speak to them. And the Rebbe spoke to them and he said to them, this mimer Chazal, that in the eyes of Hashem, every day it's considered like you daven and you put on tefillin, and on Sukkot you ate in a sukkah and you shook a lulav. In the eyes of Hashem, it's considered because you're all forced. Notice he gave them chizuk, he gave them support, moral support, and moral strength and conviction that they shouldn't consider themselves that since their Yiddishkeit was robbed from them, so therefore they are not doing any mitzvahs and they're torn away from their heritage, so they're practically been enslaved to be a goy, so therefore they should feel like a goy, and the Rebbe is telling them no. All of you are considered as if you're doing all the mitzvahs all the time. And he said something deep, and the Rebbe was very much into this. He says, Mailol of Akasav, the wording over there is Mailol of Akasav Ki'ilu Asa. The Torah considers it as if he did that mitzvah. So he said as follows. So when a regular guy puts on tefillin, for example, so he gets up in the morning, he puts on tefillin. Now, the proper way to put on tefillin is not only to put the straps on your and the boxes on your head and then on your arms, but also to think and meditate, like it says in the Shulchan Aruch, that the box that's on your head, that is to dedicate your mind to what's written in Tefillin, the oneness of Hashem, and how Hashem took us out of Egypt, made Jewish history, and Jewish history began. And he puts it opposite the heart to dedicate your heart. So in the midst of Tefillin, we're supposed to think deeply and meditate that right now I'm dedicating my heart and my mind to Hashem and to the ideals of Torah and mitzvahs that are in little scrolls in the boxes, inside the box of the Tefillin. So we're supposed to think about that. And someone who studies Chassidus and especially Kabbalah, he's meditating about how the Tefillin represent heavenly energies that have to do with a certain level of godliness, and how his putting on Tefillin affect what's going on in the heavenly spheres. So there's fireworks going on when a Yid puts on tefillin in the morning. But does the average Yid sense this? Does he have these mystical thoughts, the thoughts of Kabbalah? No. And even a regular Yid doesn't necessarily think and meditate, I should dedicate my heart and mind to Hashem when he puts on tefillin. And some people, when they put on tefillin, they're in a major rush, they're running late, and they're just strapping on the tefillin to them, saying the Shema, and they're off. And they're not thinking even too deeply of what they're doing. So these mitzvahs are not, so to say, 100% polished and perfect mitzvahs. that's when the only participant in the mitzvahs is man. So on Sunday I put on film with more kavanah, Monday with less kavanah, Tuesday so and so, Wednesday super kavanah. My putting on film through the week varies on my mood, on my time, and on my focus, and so on. That's because I'm putting on film, or Yankel is putting on tefillin, or Eliyahu is putting on tefillin. Each one puts on tefillin this day in that way. But what happens to this Cantonist who he was dragged from his home when he was about 12 years old? That's how young they used to drag them. 11, 12-year-olds were dragged from their home. He never got a pair of tefillin. And he's sitting over there, brought up like a goy, but he knew that he was a Jew. And he would love on the day of his bar mitzvah, he knows when his bar mitzvah is, to put on tefillin, but he can't. So Hashem considers it as if he put on tefillin. Now, when the Torah considers it as if he put on tefillin, the Torah makes it a perfect putting on tefillin. In the Torah's book, when they consider this Cantonist that he put on tefillin, it's a perfect putting on tefillin, as if he had in mind all of the meditation that's in the Kabbalah, and his heart and his mind. It's a perfect putting on tefillin on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, because it's not only human input that's involved in putting on the tefillin, it's that the Torah labels him that you put on tefillin on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And that's what the Rebbe was telling them. Hashem considers you putting on tefillin every day, you're putting on that. So this gave them strength. The whole idea was to inspire them that they should feel that they're Yidden. Even though practically they're held back from doing and experiencing the Jewish life. So we find other calculations where divine calculations are made and consider things happened even though they didn't happen. So if we're going to understand the line, that a good thought is considered as if he did, even though he didn't do, the wording should have been Maila Lav HaKasav, that the Torah considered as if. But the wording is Mitzarfa L'Maisa, that Hashem attaches the thought to a deed. So it sounds like a deed happened, but it was detached. And now Hashem has to attach it. So he's going to explain that the reason why it's so-called detached is because there was no emotion. And when a person does the most he can, that in the mind he motivates himself to the degree that at least in his mind he understands that he is driven and motivated to do this mitzvah, and he should do it out of love. But his heart is not that type of, doesn't have that nature to feel on fire about doing this mitzvah, or probably about much in life. So therefore Hashem attaches it. And we'll soon see what's the significance of this attachment. So he explains. Ela inyan kidchilu urchimu shebos galas libay hema mislapshim b'maisa mitzvahs lachiyoisam leparcha le'eila. When a person does mitzvah out of love and a sense of awe, which is sensed in his heart, bizgalas libay, this carries the mitzvah aloft. Using the words of the Zohar, he says that a mitzvah is parcha le'ela. It flies above, it flies heavenward. Which is an instinct Kabbalistic concept. Mitzvahs that are done with feelings fly upward. Parcha, the word parcha means to fly. It ascends heavenward. So let's analyze this a bit and discuss this idea. He's going to elaborate more about this in a later chapter, chapter 38, 39. But let's see how this applies over here, because there's some unique insight how this applies over here. A mitzvah has a body and a soul. There's the soul of the mitzvah, and there's the body of a mitzvah. Like a person. A person has the body and the soul. The body is the physical presence of a human being, is his body. You can touch it, you can sense it, you can feel it. But then there's a soul that gives vitality. The soul you cannot touch, you cannot measure, you cannot weigh. Similarly, a mitzvah, putting on tefillin is a physical mitzvah. You have to do it with your hands, you put on the tefillin. Not only the tefillin, I'm saying putting on the tefillin is the mitzvah. The tefillin in the closet is not a mitzvah. Putting on the tefillin, saying the words of davening, saying it, not reading it is in the mind. You're supposed to actually say the words of the davening, or say words of Torah, or eating matzah. Take a matzah, you put it in your mouth, you chew it, you swallow it. Those are physical actions. That is, so to say, the body of the mitzvah. The soul of a mitzvah is feelings. If you're doing mitzvahs with feelings, it has a soul. If you're doing a mitzvah without any feelings, it's a lifeless mitzvah, and it doesn't fly above. Now, what's this idea of the mitzvah needing a mitzvah to fly above? It's a very nice poetic line, and I'm sure people who like Kabbalah, they don't need an explanation for what this means. It just sounds good. Mitzvahs fly up. That sounds good. It's good poetry. But Chabad takes Kabbalah and analyzes it, and you should understand it with our mind, the philosophy of everything or much of what is written in the Kabbalah. Mitzvah, in general, is the point where heaven and earth meet. Heaven and earth kiss each other at the point of a mitzvah. So when a man does a mitzvah or a woman does a mitzvah, so they're on this world and they're attaching themselves to the heaven. That's why in the dream of Yaakov, he said, what did he see? He saw a ladder, Mutzav Arza V'Roishe Magia Shemayim. He saw a ladder that's standing on the earth down here below, and it touches the heavens way up above. And that's really every mitzvah. Every mitzvah is a connection between heaven and earth. Now this can go in two directions, like a ladder can go in two directions. What's the direction of a ladder? A ladder can go upwards, a ladder can go downwards. And in mitzvahs, there are also 2 points. Some mitzvahs emphasize one direction, other mitzvahs emphasize a different direction. There is a point, part of mitzvahs is drawing godliness coming down here. The direction is bringing down Hashem in this world. Generally, Torah study. Torah is Hashem's wisdom. Hashem gave us the Torah. And when we study Torah down here below, we're drawing down godliness. And to a certain degree, every mitzvah, we say, we're bringing down holiness through every mitzvah. That is the direction of the mitzvah, downward direction, from heaven, earthward. Then there's another thing in mitzvahs. How through doing mitzvahs in this world, we're elevating the world. And this is the direction of from earth, heavenward. Right now, he wants to show how emotions, the role of emotions. So we spoke about every mitzvah has the body of the mitzvah, that's the physical action. And then there's the feeling behind the mitzvah. The body mitzvah is a physical thing. We're in a physical body. We're doing it with physical objects, and we're making the physical world holy by using our physical body to do a mitzvah. And when Mashiach will come, we'll see every place and every person will shine. It will shine through the mitzvahs they did and the places that mitzvahs were done. It'll shine. You know, like you have a Geiger counter to see if there's some nuclear properties over here has been affected by some nuclear energy. When Mashiach comes, we will actually sense where in this physical world mitzvahs were done, who did these mitzvahs in the physical world, because that's what happens when we do mitzvahs. We bring down holiness in the world. That's from heaven downward. That's the body of a mitzvah. When the feeling of the mitzvah brings the mitzvah, the energy of the mitzvah heavenward. Not the physical. The physical mitzvah stays here below. But the feelings that we do and that inspire us to the mitzvah, they make the mitzvah raise up heavenward. And we're going to learn in terms of Kabbalah, there are generally two worlds, the world of Bria and the world of Yetzirah, which we'll speak about later, depending what kind of feelings are necessary to elevate the mitzvah and to what level, how high they can be elevated. And the more significant the feeling is, the higher they will elevate the mitzvah. Parcha le'ela, it flies above. And this connects the mitzvah with Hashem in a more intense way and accomplishes the elevation of mitzvahs to the highest level to stand before Hashem and become one with Hashem. So he says over here, in order to make the mitzvah rise up above, to ascend, fly upwards, you have to have feelings. What kind of feelings? Feelings that connect to the physical, the mitzvah is the body. So a body needs a soul that can vitalize a body. Angels cannot give life to a body. There's a special energy force that connects with the physical body. Souls or spiritual beings that are way above the physical cannot come into the body. So when we speak about the effect of a mitzvah, it has to be a feeling that is sensed physically. That's behizgalus liber, that he senses. Ki haleiv hu gam ken chumri kishar evorim, because the heart is physical and material like the rest of his body. Shem klei hamaisa. So let's say the person was eating matzah. So he ate matzah, or he ate a Shabbos meal, or he drank the wine of Kiddush. So what's involved in the mitzvah? His mouth, his taste buds. He tastes the wine, he's enjoying the wine. He swallows the wine, it gives him a buzz. He's happy. So he's sensing the wine physically. So feelings that are coming from the heart, the pull of the heart, since the heart is also physical, so that connects and attaches to the mitzvah to elevate the mitzvah. Elashu pnimi v'chayis lehem. The heart is physical, like the mouth that's eating or drinking for mitzvah. The heart is also physical. So energy of the heart inspires the mouth, with which he's doing the mitzvah, to do the mitzvah. And therefore, it moves the mitzvah, and there's a connection between the feeling and the actual action that he's doing with his hands to put on film, with his mouth to eat matzah, to make kiddush, and so on. And therefore, the feelings get enclosed and become one and energize the physical hands that are putting on film or lighting the Shabbos candles, or the mouth that's eating matzah or eating a Shabbos meal. It connects to it and it elevates it. And the words that the Zohar use, Godfind, they're the wings. Mitzvahs have wings. What are the wings of the mitzvah that energize with the feelings? But that is feelings that are sensed in the heart. But this person who doesn't have feelings in the heart, his feelings are really in the mind. It's a motivation in the mind. So it's not sensed physically. So it cannot really move him. It can motivate him, but he's skipping that step where feelings are really connected to action. So since the feelings are not connected to actions, how do we have the wings to elevate it? So therefore, if he is doing the tchilur rechim b'shibtunas moich v'tlumas libehanau, but the fear of God and the love, which is not sensed in the heart, it's tfunas moichai. It's in the mind. He has a resolve and he has an understanding that really he loves Hashem. But he loves Hashem in his mind, not in a feeling. And in this talumas libe, it's in this seed. It's like a seed of a feeling that may eventually come out in him one day. So that sense that he has in his mind is not connected to his action. It's detached from action. And they cannot become enclosed and connected to the physical body of the mitzvah to elevate them, to ascend above, to make the mitzvahs fly, because to make the mitzvahs fly, it has to be a feeling that is also sensed in the heart, physical. A physical feeling can make a physical mitzvah rise up. But where the love is not a feeling, it's not a tug in his physical heart, it is resolve in his mind, that is too abstract and detached. So therefore, the Gemara tells us, Hashem has to make this divine calculation, this divine, not calculation, but better said, this divine push to attach the mind to the action. So therefore Hashem has to connect the motivation to the action to make it soar, to make it fly. That's what the Gemara meant, that a good thought is attached to a good deed. It's not a good thought that he thought of doing it but didn't do it, but it's a good thought. It's really a good thought. It's a motivational thought. It's a thought that actually moved him to get off his feet and to do the mitzvah. It's a resolve. It's in his mind. He understood that really he loves Hashem, but he understood that he should love Hashem because he actually doesn't feel it in his heart. It's not a feeling in his heart. It's in that level of tfunas moichai, where it's in the mind, where the mind is trying to bridge his thoughts to move him to do the action. So how do we connect it? Now, so this is in the kindness of Hashem. So since this person is doing his most, the most that he could do, because he cannot bring himself to a feeling that is really sensed in the heart in a way that it pulls his physical heart, that he senses it. So therefore, Hashem, however, sees that for him, it's not an imperfect action. And therefore, Hashem attaches it to the action as if it's a complete action. ad olam habriya, and he elevates this to the higher world, where when a person does mitzvahs, and he has the deepest feelings, where the Kabbalah says he makes the mitzvah rise to the higher world, where are the higher angels. So even though he doesn't have those feelings to drive it and to give the wings to the mitzvah to reach on that high level, but Hashem considers it and he attaches it and say, well, he's giving the most of what he can. Hashem considers it as if it is a whole mitzvah and it's going to reach that highest level. Now, a little Kabbalah over here. In the Kabbalah, there are 4 worlds. There is this world, it's a physical world, where godliness is concealed. So if a person doesn't see godliness, he sees a physical world, he sees space. Yes, he sees signs of godliness. He sees how beautiful nature is. And if he's intelligent, he understands that this can't happen by itself. And there must be a creator and a designer. And stuff like this doesn't just happen by accident. So he understands it. And the more refined he is, he senses it. And certainly a Yid who has a neshama feels it in his neshama. But it's not in the physical sense. Like the scientists say, you can't touch it and measure it and weigh it and connect to it in a physical way. Higher than this world is the world. This world is called Asiya, the world, the physical world. Higher than this world is Yetzirah, where creation is in the earliest form before forming the physical world. It's called Yitzirah. And this world are only spiritual beings. And they are the lower angels who have a lower awareness of Hashem. Then there's the word Bria. Bria is the third world, coming from below to the second world. Now we're up to the third world, the Olam HaBria. Bria is from word creation. That's where the beginning of creation is, but it's a creation that's totally of spiritual beings. And over here exist the higher angels. The higher angels. In davening, Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish are the angels of Olam HaBria, and Baruch Kved, Baruch Kved Hashem Kaimeh is the Olam HaYitzir. Now, higher than that is Olam HaAtzilus. That is where only Hashem exists. Only Hashem exists. But it's considered a world because Hashem exists in the form of the Esses spheres, where there is a human-like, where Hashem has a human-like attributes, where Hashem put himself in the position to relate to creation and to the worlds. So these are the 4 worlds. From above, below, Atzilus is the higher world, but there's only Hashem. Bria is the beginnings of creation, where there are the higher angels. These angels in Olam HaBria, which is where he just said our mitzvahs can rise up to, we can be, our mitzvahs, our actions are in the world of the higher angels. These angels have a higher intelligence. And in that world, these angels feel like the godliness that gives them life is one with them. An example of this is, for example, fish in water. The fish cannot live out of the water. You can't say, oh, here's the fish. Animals were also created from the earth, but they're now separate from the earth. They eat from the earth. They eat the plants that come from the earth. But water came from, the fish came from water, and they're still in the water. So in that world, the oneness of Hashem with whatever exists in that world is so one with them like fish in water. Over there, they are so connected to Hashem because they have a higher intelligence. And our mitzvahs can soar and be in that company, because when we do a mitzvah and we really put feelings in it, it stands before Hashem equal and on the same world as these higher angels. But the world, the next world below that, Yitzira, it's already the beginning of the heavens. But over there, there are angels that don't have higher intelligence. They have feelings. So therefore, feelings are not, in Kabbalah and Chassidus, feelings are considered a lower level than intelligence. Because in feelings, there's your feelings. Intelligence, you see the things objectively the way it is. In a feeling, there's also your selfhood. So in the higher world of Bria, the angels or whatever exists there is totally nullified and one with Hashem. In the lower world of Yitzira, over here, the beings that exist there, the angels exist there, they feel Hashem, but they feel themselves as well, because it's feelings. Now, when, in the Kabbalah and Chassidus, later on in Tanya is going to explain, if you work on yourself and inspire yourself properly, where in the mind you're working with your brain to develop feelings, so it's a perfect action. Your mind, you understand the greatness of Hashem and the importance of this mitzvah, and that moves you to feelings in your heart, and those feelings that you worked on and developed now inspire you to do a mitzvah. So those mitzvahs go to the Olam HaBriya, to the world where the higher beings are. But if you didn't work on inspiring yourself, you just say, oh, Hashem, I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm doing it for you, and my neshama loves you. I have a neshama that loves you. But you didn't work on inspiring yourself. So the mitzvahs that you do don't soar that high. They go to the lower world. So the Alter Rebbe is saying over here, by this Beinoni, who tried to inspire himself, and in his mind he reached a state of consciousness of Hashem, and to motivate himself to do it, but he's not on fire in his heart, Hashem attaches that motivation, that thought that he had, the resolve, and the understanding that he has, even though there is no feeling, he attaches it to the action to make it soar to the level of a Beriah of the higher worlds and to elevate it. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaref l'mayis. And therefore he says, Makam aliyas ha'torah v'mitzvah ha'inasim aydei tchilu rechimu sichliyim. A person does mitzvahs with mind work, he does brain work, and the brain moves his heart, and his heart is inspired, and his heart it has emotions and feelings to do the mitzvah. That's considered love and awe of Hashem sichliyim, with intelligence. And it moves him to have feelings bizgalis, asher bizgalis libe mamish, with feelings. There's the mind and the heart. That soars to Olam HaBriya. And over here we consider this person, even though there are no feelings that we can talk about, it goes at that same level. But if Hashem would not make that attachment, if he would just let it be, then we would say, no, it would go to Olam HaYetzirah. Later on, we're going to explain that any mitzvah that a person does, even though he doesn't have feelings in his heart, it's also going to soar to a certain degree, but it's not going to have that connection with Hashem. I think the important message over here, one of the important messages what I was thinking over here is that when we do a mitzvah, we don't really appreciate what we're doing. We don't see the fireworks that we do when we do a mitzvah. We don't see the fireworks. And even when we do a mitzvah without feelings, the more we put into our mitzvahs, the bigger the fireworks. Like they say, there are fireworks and there are fireworks. But we have to understand, when we do a mitzvah, any mitzvah and every mitzvah, we are energizing ourselves, radiating ourselves with godly energy, with Hashem's blessings that comes with that energy. When we make a connection, we're bringing Hashem down here, and we're elevating ourselves and our energy upwards. We're coming close to Hashem. It's we're hugging Hashem and Hashem is hugging us. Words that we use in an earlier chapter in Tanya. We are embracing Hashem and Hashem is embracing us by every mitzvah. So big things are happening which we're not necessarily aware of. And that's what the Kabbalah opens up the heavens to tell us this. The power of mankind. The power that every Jewish man and woman has when they do a mitzvah. And over here we're talking about a personality who would have liked to have passion. And he is a Beinoni who's working very hard on himself and he's not sinning. And he would have loved to have passion like he sees another Yid who has passion when he does the mitzvahs. And here Hashem looks at him and says, listen, you're motivating yourself as much as you can, and the motivation is moving you to action. Yes, it's skipping that part of your humanity, but that's okay. And in fact, in the note, he says, using about Kabbalah, if you look at the word tevuna, which is a form of understanding, there's bina and tvuna. But tvuna is a lower form of understanding, is the understanding that is not just an intellectual development of idea, but that's part of the understanding that moves us to motion. That's why in the word tvuna, there are 5 letters, and those 5 letters spell ben ubas. You see it in the Haggadah on the footnote. Ben ubas. Son and daughter. And psychologically and Kabbalistically, the son and daughter of the mind are emotions, the different motions. Feminine type of emotion, masculine type of emotion, love and awe. So in the Zayin Eitz Chaim tell us that in the heavens where there's also that structure of how godly intelligence and godly emotions and godly action develop, sometimes also Tevuna skips the level of Ze'er Anpin, which is supposed to be the source of emotions. She'etchil rechimu ulepa'amim hatfuna yeredes liyasmoichen benukva de Ze'er Anpin she'en oisis ha'terev ha'mitzvahs ha'maskil yavan. The Kabbalah is talking over there about the structure. There's Chachma and Bina. And Bina is supposed to give birth to feelings which is called Ze'er Anpin. And the Ze'er Anpin level, which are feelings, then connect with the feminine aspect, the Nukva, which is action. Just like in the union of a husband and wife, what makes the birth happen is the feminine. So you need the ingredients of the husband and the wife, but the birth, actually, the production of world where it actually happens is the feminine. So you need in the middle, you need the masculine. So it's in the mind, the masculine, and mind, feelings, and action. And the Kabbalah says that sometimes there's an alternative process where it goes from the higher intelligence straight to action, skipping the level of Ze'er Anpin. And what he's saying with that is that Kabbalistically, sometimes is alternative methods which Hashem operates, whereby Hashem, it goes from mind, from what's considered mind or higher intelligence to action, skipping what would be called godly emotion. So therefore, we can understand why this person who is trying to do his utmost, and it's never he's never it's nevertheless not inspiring himself, we consider it a whole mitzvah with an alternative process from mind to action. And this is, I think, an important lesson to all of us, as we said before. Each one of us should do their utmost. Hashem will already figure out and make the proper calculations to make us whole, and that our mitzvahs will create the right fireworks to make a difference in this world, in our creation, and our purpose. Good night.